Hey Craig, as a multi-generational farming business, how does that play into how we manage the vineyards?
Well, I think you have to remember that you're always trying to farm so that when your kids and your grandkids are older and they say want to get in the business, that you have protected the soils, you've protected the farm so that they can farm that vineyard and those vines. And you want to make sure you plant the right vines, the right rootstock, and the right soils, and everything's healthy so that when they take over in 50 years, 75 years, whatever it is, that they can do it. And the vines are healthy and everything is still growing in a way that you are conserving the ecosystem and everything around you.
We hear about sustainability all the time. What does that mean in practice, though?
Well, like I said, it means conserving the soil. It means conserving the vines. It means conserving the ecosystem around it. There is an ecosystem in the vineyard, and you need to protect it because it helps you. You have favorable bugs and organisms that are beneficial, and you want to maintain those. And you want to make sure that you prevent the deleterious organisms from being around, but you have to maintain the positive ones as well. So you don't want to do any practice that eliminates the positive organisms that help you.
And this comes down to the choice of cover crops and everything too, right?
Absolutely. Cover crops are what are planted down the rows between the vines. And there are different kinds of cover crops. Some actually fix nitrogen, where they take the nitrogen out of the air and then release it back into the soil. The vine then uses that. Some cover crops use up excess water. So cover crops also add organic tilth to the soils. So they're very important choices of cover crops in the vineyard. Helps you maintain the health of the soil and to maintain the health of the vines too.
I've heard you mention before that you don't do a lot in your vineyard, or as little as possible. You don't go over it a lot. Why is that?
Well, I have a personal feeling that you don't want to be in your vineyard a lot, because every time you go in with a tractor or employees, you're compacting the soils, you're impacting the environment. And I think you want to have a very light touch when you're doing farming, as light as you can to get the benefits and the results that you want. You don't want to compact the soils, for example, by having tractors run through them, because then when it rains in the wintertime, then you won't have the water penetrate into the soil as well. So easy things like that, just staying out of the vineyard, running the tractor down the rows, sometimes will catch a vine and pull it out of the ground. Mm-hmm. Just easy things like that too.
Tell me more about pest management.
I am a firm believer in natural pest management to the extent that it is absolutely possible. There are organisms, as I said earlier, that are positive, and there are organisms in the vineyard that actually damage the vines and reduce the crop and the quality. There are always organisms that will kind of the yin and the yang. They have organisms that eat the bad ones, and you want to encourage those. If you come in and you do something that reduces the good organisms, then the bad organisms will grow up and take over. So there's always a balance of organisms, and you always want to encourage that. You can have a few bad organisms, and that's no problem, bad bugs, as long as their numbers aren't high enough to cause any really bad impacts in the vineyard.
You have to be careful, though, on which ones you introduce to the vineyards, because they can sort of overtake everything accidentally, though, right?
Absolutely. We've seen that happen in ecosystems where you eliminate one organism completely, and then another organism will take over, and that one actually can be much worse than the first one. So we're not smart enough to know all that balance. Mother Nature's been doing it for zillions of years. We just have to encourage Mother Nature's natural way of dealing with pests.
I know water management is a much larger topic, but tell me a little bit about what you do in your vineyards.
Yeah, we always want to remember that the soil is a big sponge. And at least in California, this is really important. It only rains up to April, and then from April till November it doesn't rain at all, and I mean no rain at all. So the soil has that sponge, and it's the only water that the vines have. So we have to irrigate when that sponge starts to dry out. We're able in California, because of that, to really modify and change the timing and how much water we give the vines. So we're able to control the growth, the quality of the growth that we get really, really well. In other areas, when it rains, you have no control over that at all. We're very fortunate that we can control it. And there are certain techniques you can use to irrigate that enhances quality and enhances color, for example, in red grapes. It's really a neat technology to use water management to increase your quality.
Thank you for chatting with us today, Craig.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.